Hello, my name is Mariana, and today this is a reading for Libra. So, Libra, I'm doing your reading as always with my own deck, so the cards that you'll see are from this deck. So, Libra, I am actually really happy that your reading is falling today because it's this sweet spot in between the Libra equinox that we had yesterday, the 23rd of September, and tomorrow that is going to be the new moon in Libra. So it feels like this perfect in between place, right? It's like actually like the middle ground, like the middle spot, right? In this perfect balance position, right? Between these two very just energetic, potent days, right? That carry Libra's energy. So I actually like very inspired by like just the astrological aspects of today and yesterday and the day that we're going to have the new moon tomorrow, right? So yeah, this reading today has nothing to do necessarily with astrology, but it has to do with recognition. It has to do with being aware of your own path, of your own accomplishments. And it's like, if not like giving yourself like this pat on the back, Libra, I want to say that you are becoming even more content, and it's like you're feeling even more proud of yourself in a good sense, right? um for everything that you have been through, like this path that you have traveled so far, right? Because we're beginning your reading with nothing else but this really powerful big card, big authority, big bow, right? It's like this cherry on top, right? It's the emperor. The emperor came with the word proclamation. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out, because that's not a word that I tend to use or that I know very much of. But it gave me like this variation of reclamation, and it's all about claiming, right? It's all about like proclaiming, reclaiming, claiming again. Or but the interesting thing is like, yes, this is coming through as like, you know, it's looking like a wreath that we put on the door, right? On Christmas time. But it's about celebrating, but in terms of claiming something. And what you're claiming, or what you seem to be claiming in terms of not just acknowledging and, being proud of, but it's like it's honoring your steps, right? Because you see here, there are two leaves, right? They seem like, well, not only like a reef like that, is made of leaves, but they're looking like steps, right? And it's interesting because that only came visible to me because of this second card, the Two of Wands. And so this card, maybe you know this, but the symbol of the wands, right? The traditional symbol, it's like, it seems, well, to me, this looks like a tree instead of a flame or a wand itself, right? So to me, this always brings like the imagery of a tree and all its elements. And so when I saw these two wands here, or these two leaves of a tree, right? It felt like two steps, as in like two leaves that you leave behind, two steps that you leave behind. It's like the words are, it's like leave and step are blending into becoming the same thing. You see here? It's like, it's a little bit tricky because it's like what I'm seeing in my mind. So I hope I can translate it how I'm seeing. But to me, the twos are cards that symbolize steps, or the very few first steps that you have to take in order to get something, to go somewhere, to accomplish something, right? And so these steps are your steps, Libra, and because they are coming through as ones, but with more of that symbolism of the tree, as in like, because perhaps, you know, I am starting here now the spring, and you are starting the fall, right? The falling leaves for fall. It's like we just had the equinox, right? It's like the leaves are starting to fall in the northern hemisphere. It's like and for me here in the southern hemisphere, it's like the spring is going to start, you know, and the blooming of the flowers, and you know, the just the leaves becoming more green, or you know, just, you know, those types of, it's like the trees are speaking, or the leaves are becoming more of like a spectacle, right? Of something that, it's like you can, it's like the leaves itself, it's like they are this proclamation perhaps of nature, but of your own nature, because it's like it's mimicking your steps, right? So it's like this is so like intertwining, like the movement of nature and this new season, right? Whether it is in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, it's like the leaves are talking, as in like the steps that nature takes, right, to change season. It's like symbolizing the steps that you have taken in your life, Libra, to accomplish something that you feel like it's like this coming full circle, right? It's like this wrapping up a cycle that feels like a great, like you deserve to be recognized by this accomplishment. You deserve to be honored by coming to this point, right? Because it's like every step that you took, it's like completed this beautiful season, or it's like it's ready to give you this, you know, wrapping around this gift, right, with a nice bow, with a nice whatever this is, right? It feels like this seal of approval from nature in a sense, right? Because there are all of this imagery here. So it's like it feels like there is this cycle that is going on, right? That is wrapping up, but to give a new beginning, right? There are new steps, but it's like in order to begin new steps, there is this recognition for the steps that you have traveled so far, right, to get to this point, right? So it feels very in sync with this Libra equinox, right? And it feels like they're the award or the reward or the uh seal of approval, or whatever it is that you're claiming, right, as like this, or nature is claiming for you, right? It's like there is this, it feels like a gift. It feels like some sort of acknowledgement, right, for your good service, perhaps, Libra, or for just like the way that you honored nature, or the way that you followed this natural cycle in terms of, you know, nature itself, right, the cycle of the trees and the seasons, but also like your own internal cycle, and how you always respected, I want to say, the guidance of your heart, right? It's like the initial steps that you took to begin this path, or even the steps that you're going to take for this next season, right? It's like is always guided by your heart, because we have the Knight of Cups. And so this Knight of Cups is talking about like whatever the mission is, whatever the job is, whatever the path ahead is, whatever lies ahead for you, it's like what you're going to take in consideration, Libra, is always your heart's decision, your heart's guidance, right? It's like your heart is in command. Your heart is always like it's like it's always the one who is going to have the last word, right? No matter how conscious and aware you are in terms of like mental awareness, right? The Sun card coming next is talking about the true clarity that comes from the heart and not from the mind. So this reward that you're receiving is because not only you're in sync with the natural cycle of the trees, of the seasons, right, of the earth, right, is also about this cosmic cycle that it's like it feels like this is representing like the seasons, right? So it's like this it's like this 1 year cycle, right? But also the sun is like this daily cycle that in the end it's like sums up to like a larger cycle, right? It's like we have these two circular, very cyclical, very just like something that spirals up, right? That you, it's like if you follow these steps guided by your heart, it's like this spiral is always going to ascend, is always going to lead you forward, right? If it makes sense. So the interesting thing about this Knight of Cups, which I feel like this is what is actually being recognized, is what is coming here right at the last row of cards, because I feel like there is this distinction that is really important to make in this case where you are going from one season to another, right? It's like you're wrapping up this very significant cycle, but with a very nice and representative seal of approval, right? It's like very few receive this sort of honor, right? So it's not that you have just completed it. It's like you have completed it with like, you know, grade A or A++, whatever you want to see it. So because the clarity that you felt was always so pure, so total, right? It's like so complete, so enlightening, right? That you never doubted your heart. And that's the interesting thing, because here in the last row, we have this very clear distinction, right? After this, which is your approach, right? Or perhaps what you have learned through this last season, right? That this is the way to go where you're never going to be deceived, right? If you follow your heart and not perhaps like, you know, material goals, or like just, it's coming through as like petty, small goals, right? With the Knight of Pentacles, with the Three of Swords following it. So I feel like it's very clear, right? The distinction here. And it's like you being the sign that evaluates very well things, right? It's like you are the one who fact checks like every single information, right? Or every single experience. And coming to this point, I want to say, where you're wrapping up the cycle with a very nice bow, right? It's like this recognition that you have done like the really good job of picking up the side or the approach to do things in a way that brings clarity, that brings illumination, that brings warmth, right? And it's just more fun, right? It's like if we think of the Three of Swords in the traditional way, it's just not fun, right? It's just not something that brings happy memories. It's like something that is deceitful or sad or, you know, heartbreaking or whatever it is. So it's like following just this perhaps like you know, something that it's very like how do I say this? It's like it's coming through as like something very small, right? It's like thinking about what you're going to gain just here on this level, right? It's like with your heart connected, with your heart guiding you. It's like you are always going to feel like the cosmic energy backup, right? Whereas if you follow just like this terrain, like very mundane accomplishment, right? And this is not something that you, it's like maybe if you had moments in your life or even in this past season, right, where you were going after these objectives, right, these more mundane tasks to accomplish, right? It's like what you found, it's like it could have been more confusing, right? It's like you couldn't really perceive what was true and what was not, right? It's like it was just like very very unstable, right? It's just coming through as like a co-creation, because to me the threes are a number of co-creation, right? That was not like it's just you couldn't discern, you couldn't tell what was the right or what was the truest way to co-create if you followed just this very limited, mundane path or objective or goal, right? If the mission was guided just by the material gain, it's like you didn't know exactly what was true or not. It's almost like losing the compass, right? Or messing up with the needle in your compass, right? It's like to co-create from this space is entirely different than co-creating from this space. And I feel like that became very clear for you, because we're ending here your reading in this part with these two cards that actually fell together. And I feel like it's it's like, seeing yourself but from afar, right? If you were in this situation previously, right, before choosing this, or before knowing that this is the option that makes more sense just because is the most elevated, the most conscious driven, or just the one that is most fun, right? The one that is clearer, right? There is no confusion between what is true and what is not. It's like here there is clarity, there is no doubt. And here you might have experienced doubt in this path, right? But you have learned from it, right? With the Ace of Swords and the King of Pentacles, you see the contrast? It's like, it's interesting how they're coming in pairs, right? And it's all about the steps, right? The two steps, right? Going hand in hand. It's like you were always considering, right? It's like taking an action would always lead to some sort of consequence, right? And I feel like you have learned how to distinguish, among all of the half-truths or total truths, right, that were mixed in this path, right? It's like, that's why I'm saying, it's like, it's not that this is entirely wrong. It's just that this messes up with the information in a way that you don't have the same clarity as you have when you follow your heart, right? So here, there is this jump, right? When you understand what you had to understand going through the situation, right? If you had this experience, Libra, and you felt the confusion, you felt the deceit, you felt the lack of awareness or the lack of clarity, right? It's like the way to find the truth, right? It's like being, okay, so this feels a little bit more ambitious, even though, the king could be the one with the highest ambition, but this feels a little bit like petty things. It's just how it's coming through. It's like objectives or goals, or like aiming for something that is like a quick gain, right? I hope I'm translating it how it's showing up to me. But the King of Pentacles, it's almost like you being in this position in comparison to the Knight of Pentacles, it's almost like you know what you have to lose. And what you have to lose, it's like the ultimate truth, right? So it's almost like here, because perhaps, it wasn't your investment, or it wasn't your money, or it wasn't your company, or it wasn't your relationship, or it was just something that you were doing for somebody else, following orders, or, whatever it is, right? It's like the mission that you were trying to accomplish as the Knight of Pentacles, it was okay to be in this state of confusion until it wasn't, until what you were risking to lose was greater than the risk of staying in that path, right? It's like, or the risk of gaining the financial quick gain or the material quick gain that was the promise of the Knight of Pentacles, or the objective of this mission that he was engaged in, or you were engaged in when you were in that sort of position, right? At some point, perhaps in that past season, or, this one that we're just wrapping up to begin anew. So why this King of Pentacles is here with the ultimate truth is just because the responsibility for being here on earth, it's like it just not allow for us to be reckless. It's just like something that you have learned, Libra, and putting in the in balance, putting into the scale, it's like you realize that what you were risking to lose here was perhaps your clarity, your sanity, your peace of mind, right? And this is something that when you realize that, you become much more mature, much more aware of the compromises in terms of material goals, right? That we're risking finding the ultimate truth, which again leads back to this, right? The only way where you can find the ultimate truth, which is not in your mind, is in your heart, right? And this is why the movement now continues, and I want to say unfolds for this next season based on this, which is ultimate truth, which is ultimate clarity. But it began here, right? Or it switched from, some petty thing, or, some small gain, for the responsibility, the maturity of knowing what you really want to gain, what you really want to collect as this very incredible prize, right? What it is that you're claiming, right? It's like perhaps at some point you had to make this decision. You had to, place these two approaches, on each plate of the scale, just to see which one was, the higher gain or the higher loss, or whatever you analyzed at the time, right? And figuring out how you had the responsibility of committing to the truth, right? This is what this is talking about. It's like the mundane aspect is also honorable, right? It's like it's something that you do have to honor. You do have to, it's not something that you have to take out of the equation. The truth is contained within the earth realm, right? But you have to be responsible with it and not just go for it reckless or unaware, I want to say, right? Because it's all about the clarity. If here the truths were mixed up, and blended with half truths, it's like when you mature, when you grow, when you pass through that experience and you realize that you weren't feeling great, right? That you were lacking clarity, that you were perhaps not seeing the information for what it was, right? Because of that state, it's like here you grow from it. It's like whatever you went through, you grow from that experience in terms of even like how to deal with material things, right? With mundane things in life, right? Perhaps even money or your job or your livelihood. It's like whatever it is, right, that keeps you alive and well in this earth realm, right? It's like the truth is contained there. It's like, and it was also contained here. It's just that you couldn't see, you didn't have the clarity because it's not up here, right? But it's in the heart. And now that you know that, it's like this is the reason why you are receiving this gift, right? With this nice bow, with this, it's like in honor of your discernment or your maturity or your growth, or like how you're going to choose to lead this next season of your life based on something that is more clear than ever, right? Which is something that is supposed to be fun, is supposed to be enlivening. Enlivening, is that the right word? You know what I mean? It's like, it's just waking you up and boosting you and just energizing you, right? Because it's always coming from the heart. And so not only, it's like you had to take those steps before, and perhaps these are the leaves that are now coming and falling from the trees and giving way for a new season to begin, where you're going to take new steps based on what you have learned from this last season, right? Or perhaps this last cycle that you're ending now. So yeah, and the interesting thing, just to add up, here at the bottom of the deck, we have the Three of Wands, which seems to be like, you know, this replacement of this type of deceiving co-creation, right? Or confusing co-creation, and one that is based on the steps that is guided by your heart, right? The steps that are taken in terms of co-creating with the cycle of nature, in tune with your own internal nature, right? I hope it makes sense. So I'm going to pull more cards for you, Libra, and I'm going to pull from the astrological runes in the extended reading. So if you want to join me there, I'll be happy to see you, and you can find the link down below. If not, I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.